There's been widespread reaction to the President's Cabinet mini-reshuffle announcement. The DA says it will pursue further action against former Justice Minister Thembi Simelane to ensure that she is held accountable for her links to the VBS Mutual Bank scandal despite the reshuffle. In its reaction, traditional leaders organization CONTRALESA says Ramaphosa should have asked Simelane to step aside while he deals with her issues. CONTRALESA says the president missed an opportunity to show the country that he doesn't tolerate corruption. Last night, Ramaphosa reshuffled his cabinet, making 4 changes to the executive. Simelane was moved to the Human Settlements Ministry, while Mamuluko Kubai takes over as the new Justice Minister. Ramaphosa also appointed Phumzile Mgcina as the Deputy Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, while Judith Nemadzinga Shabalala takes on the mantle as Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour.
All right, joining us to discuss the cabinet changes, I'm joined by political analyst Nkosikhulule Nyembezi. Good afternoon, Mr. Nyembezi. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, just looking across various media platforms, political parties and commentators alike have been left quite baffled by the reshuffle. It seems they cannot make head or tail of it. Your reaction?
Yes, it's a minor reshuffle, and the explanation for it doesn't excite anyone, especially because there is a minister, controversial minister involved in terms of the Justice Department. Because I think there was much expected in terms of any cabinet reshuffle should also signify political will on the side of the president, in that he's trying to keep South Africa together. This has not been the case.
But the reasons furnished there was that this was to ensure that government runs efficiently, but in the absence of something beyond that, it seems that there's a number of people who are trying to draw a link between Minister Simelane's VBS case and the reshuffle. But a redeployment to another ministry would surely not suffice if indeed the changes were informed by the ongoing case, wouldn't you say?
I would agree, especially because the issue about the questions hanging over the minister, Simelane, are supposed to be resolved by the president. In the absence of a resolution to that, he's supposed to step aside. We'll understand that the president had asked for a report on all these allegations, but he hasn't made it public as to whether all the questions were answered, and as to whether all the questions were directed, were included the questions that were asked by the public. So to the extent that the ball stops with the president, we could say that he has fallen short in terms of this cabinet reshuffle.
But on that aspect of stepping aside, even with the political party, one has to be charged first. So would that not be premature on his part if he were to then punish her and say she step aside? Because at this point, there's nothing beyond just the ongoing investigation. Because some are even saying that here, he was merely kicking for touch, but he had no choice. He just reacted because there was mounting pressure to act, but most certainly his hands were tied because there are no charges that have been preferred against her at this point.
Exactly the point. This is not about finding the minister guilty or retribution. This is about good governance and accountability. There are questions asked to which answers have not been provided. The executive is supposed to provide those answers, collectively led by the president, individually in terms of the minister. And as I say, the finalization of the matter is in the hands of the president because he asked for the questions. He asked for the answers and is supposed to act on the answers. The public is asking the questions and the president is supposed to be proactive in answering those questions. So in the sense that the minister is supposed to step aside so as to remove this shadow that there is something wrong, that there is something untoward, especially because in that Ministry of Justice, the NPA that is supposed to prosecute any wrongdoing is the one that is overseen by the minister. So it means she could interfere with the progress on the investigation on the charges that are preferred. And she herself has not come clear. So in terms of political accountability, this doesn't count positively.
Ideally, the NPA should be independent of the Justice Ministry, which is what has been stated ever so often, in as much as the likes of DAs Glenys Breitenbach in that parliamentary inquiry had stated or even gone on to quote certain instances, the likes of the Thembi Simelanes, where there were instances where it seemed as though the minister had influenced certain decisions taken by the NPA. But if that has been the issue, that perhaps there is a power issue here, that if she remains Justice Minister and you've got the NPA that must make a consideration beyond the investigation of possibly preferring charges against her, the President would then say, I've resolved that specific matter then, because I've moved her from the Justice portfolio and taken her to human settlements. So is that not perhaps something that is sensible at this point in the absence of any charges?
Unfortunately not, because this is a political issue. The political perception is that there is favorism that is involved here. There are factions within the ANC, and it looks like the minister and the president belong to the same faction. And so the minister is loyal to the president, and the president wouldn't want to get rid of people who are loyal to him. But the fact that there are still these questions being asked, it tells something a lot about how the ANC operates and what the future holds, because the electorate has reduced its support for the ANC based on these issues, to say that the issues of corruption, the issues of maladministration, they are not being acted upon as they are supposed to. So as I say, perception plays a big role, especially because there has been no finalization on the matter. If the president had said, I asked the questions, I got the answers, and on assessing the answers regarding the position of the minister, I found her not to be at fault, then we could be debating something different. But the issue is that those questions linger, the matter remains unresolved, and I think it's going to backfire on the ANC.
You're quite correct. Perception is everything. And the ANC has stated on several platforms that it's moving full steam ahead on its renewal path. What message do you believe this kind of a decision sends to those in support of their renewal agenda?
It's a negative message that is sent out, because early in the year, in February, when the president of the ANC launched the election manifesto, he made bold promises, said we want to move forward on fighting corruption and maladministration. He talked about forces that were bent on reversing the progress on development that South Africa has registered so far. And he promised that the ANC will come hard on cleaning corruption, on dealing with issues of maladministration. Today, or with this cabinet reshuffle, it looks like he has reneged on those promises. He has basically rubbished what he had said. So it means that he just deceived the electorate when he launched the manifesto and uttered all those words. You read the foreword of that manifesto in terms of the new trajectory, let's work together. It doesn't look like this is happening. Then there is another issue about the bloated cabinet. So some people expected that when you are going to do a cabinet reshuffle, you're going to reduce the headcount, you're going to reduce the warm bodies by amalgamating some of those ministries, because it is also something which perhaps the government of national unity has been negotiating. We don't see any of that. So it's a zero, it's a negative count on this matter.
It's a zero from you, Mr. Nyembezi. Thank you very much for joining us on The Full View.